always played as you and always played as Yelper.
There's some nice like wildflowers and stuff.
As far as I haven't seen someone try flying a drone back here yet.
I framed it so my dad's truck will stand
Are they turning on the engines or are they just turning on the lights?
I have no idea.
I think they're just going to turn on the lights because no need to just turn them on.
Yeah,
I have no idea what they're doing. It's the first time they've done this.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Both are run, don't they?
Oh, yeah. Oh, this one's turning on.
You gotta keep the battery charged for the drive home.
Alright, a little smoke.
So they are turning on.
No. Yeah, no. When I was a lot, like me and Robbie were doing a bunch of city driving for the last like half hour, like stop and go traffic lights, and that's like after the first like 20 minutes, my lights were fine, and then they just started flickering. When we were idling, but when we were driving along, they were just fine. So I would imagine, yeah. I didn't want to, but it seemed like it was going in.
Hey, they got the strap beacon.
Oh.
Yeah. Look at this.
You got five?
And, you know, he's got a
I know.
Yes, now that we do have.
Okay, that I can get.
Touch on safety, shop safety. If you look around, this is an operating facility. There's rails in the floors, there's divots in the concrete, there's holes. Please stay in the yellow areas or in the taped off areas. We will be going around the locomotives. There's grease, there's grime, there's dirt. Know that if you touch it, you're going home with it. So,
That's what we want.
if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Give them raise your hand. Let me know. I'll answer them to the best of my abilities. I am one of 4 full-time employees here. I do this 5 days a week. We have many, many volunteers that help us out as well. Without that help, we wouldn't be doing this stuff right now. So, if you guys want to go ahead and follow me down here, like I said, please watch your step in the floor and everything. 1903 and has been in continuous use since. After Rock Island went bankrupt, Chrome Crankshaft bought the facility and started rebuilding locomotives. And in 1990, National Railway Equipment bought the facility and has been doing the same ever since. In 2002, the Railroading Heritage of Midwest America bought the facility, and we are now rebuilding steam locomotives. So everything has come full circle. This is where the Rock Island was their main shop. This is their main rebuild facility. As soon as we go on the tour, I'll show you and point out some stuff that still remained from the steam engine days, from the original configuration. So if everybody wants to look off to your left, the machine sitting over here is called a McCabe flanger. We got that from the Illinois Railway Museum. The McCabe flanger is used to bend boilerplate, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, up to 1 inch. And that's what we use to form the front tube sheet and the rear tube sheet of the locomotives. If everybody looks here, here are some of the dies that go into it. It's air powered. That's a giant air cylinder on the back. You pull the lever and it bends the steel. Rock Island days, it's one of their lathes. It's still sitting here. We use it every so often. We have 2 vertical mills over here. We use those to true things up.
Did you say that was wheel lathe?
It's not a wheel lathe. It's just a real large lathe. We can turn pins, large.
I was
bushings.
wondering, yeah.
No, we do not have a wheel lathe yet. So. Well, Ed's got one out there in the shop. So.
Oh, there you go.
They just got a 90-inch wheel lathe that pulled out of some warehouse. I don't know where he found that. There were So as we come down into our machining area, you can see the pile of staples off to your left. Those are the staples that had to come out of the 3985. We've inventoried them, counted them, gauged them to make sure we got the right sizes for the ones that we put back in. But all of those had to come out. Those were all either broken or defective in some way, shape, or form. Each one, to take a stay bolt out, rethread the holes, and put a stay bolt back in is about an 8-hour process for one stay bolt. And there's about 400 or so that we've replaced as of right now. This is more of our machining area down here. We have many mills, bandsaws.
What's that going to be? It's another rear sheet.
That's the rear sheet for 3985. Yes, that's the new one. Yes, that's the new one. It's not really too, it's going to be off, sent off where the water jet goes out. Yes. Yes, this is our machining area. This is where we do our welding, our grinding, our milling, our hogging, whatever needs to be done. This is kind of where we do it at. A lot of these machines were government surplus, and since we're a not-for-profit organization, the government, they're able to put in for it. Many organizations put in for it, and the government kind of bids it out. And most of these pieces of equipment were government surplus, and we've gotten them from donations through the U.S. government. There's a lathe down there that actually turns space shuttle parts that we got from NASA. So yeah, it's kind of neat, something that turned parts for the space shuttle we're using to build, a 1943 steam locomotive. So yeah.
The weirdest way to change job equipment? I don't know. I don't know what it is.
But yeah, most of this equipment was government surplus. Shut down military bases, decommissioned. They got a new piece of equipment. There's actually several pieces of equipment that we've got are low hours, and I don't know why they got rid of them, but they're ours now. So. This is the high bay. This is the erecting bay. This is where all the work happened with the steam locomotives in the Rock Island days. The center track that the 5511 is sitting on originally went through the whole length of the building. In the 50s, they converted it over to service diesel locomotives, and that's when the current configuration that it's in now was put in. Obviously, the Challenger. Where to begin? The locomotive was extremely worn out when we got it. It was done. The running gear is still in good shape, but the boiler was pretty much shot. Last time, the Union Pacific tried to do a hydro on it. They discovered a lot of broken stay bolts. It wouldn't hold pressure, so they took it out of service. If you want to come down alongside of us here.
Oh my God, not that thing.
Yep, break time's over. So we'll start with the firebox. Obviously, you guys saw all the stay bolts that we took out of it. We have been putting a lot of new stay bolts back in it. We're up around 400. I don't have an exact number. All the new caps that you see were just welded on within the past week. The shinier caps, as you can see, those are all new stay bolts in there. And then on the side, you can see the new rigid stay bolts that we've put in. They're hammered and seal welded on the inside as well. If you look below our Mad Max and the Thunderdome scaffolding, you see the knuckle that was out on the top of the locomotive. It's up on top of the firebox up there. That was completely worn out. The Union Pacific had actually gone in there and pad welded some of the soft areas, thin areas, just to build it back up, and you just can't service that anymore. So we cut it out of there. There's also several patches along the sides of the firebox that were just too thin. We cut those out of there, put new boilerplate in. We just formed and welded this in. We're getting ready to put stay bolts in on the inside of it. If anybody wants to take the head and stick it up right here, please watch your noggin against that. But you can see some of the firebox work that was done, and you'll see the new knuckle and the new patches inside. A lot of firebox work is needing to be done to this locomotive.
Does it run coal or fuel?
Fuel oil. It'll burn. We're not going to use diesel. There's a fuel oil, a filtered fuel oil that we're going to use for it. So as we come down here, you obviously all can see we're missing something underneath the locomotive. About 2 weeks ago, we went ahead and pulled the front engine out. This is the first time that this thing has been apart like this since probably 1949, 1950, somewhere in that ballpark. That was probably the last time this engine had this level of service before the end of steam. There was a giant pin that held the front engine in that pocket right there. And we were actually really worried that it was going to have a hard time coming out of there. We got it over the pit that you see back here. We put the straps on it. We just put a little tension, and all of a sudden we heard a thunk. And sure enough, you looked underneath there, and the pin had dropped about 6 inches. So we put a transmission jack underneath it, and the oil that they had pumped inside of there was still just solid. Not solid, but it was, the viscosity in it was so great that it just slid down on it's like a suction. And she came right out. And then the next day we went ahead and lifted it. There's a sweet spot. If you go up too high, it binds. If you go down too low, you won't be able to get the springs to decompress enough to get it out. So there was a sweet spot, and once we found it, it rolled right out. Like, you know, we couldn't believe how well. Obviously, here's the front engine unit. It's been pulled out. We've already removed several parts off of it. There's a 26-inch brake cylinder that we had to pull off. That was fun. It's never, since this hasn't been out from underneath the locomotive for 60 some odd years, all of that grease and grime and oil and road dust and coal dust, because you know we've been digging coal out from in this thing, just all kind of turned into its own mineral and baked itself inside of that. The reach rod that runs to the rear engine through the center of it was completely packed in there. We couldn't move it. We had to dig it out, chisel it out. It's greasy, it's grimy, it's going to take a lot of work. But we've got it. We've been knocking some parts off of it here and there. We're going to really get into it this summer. We'll pull it off its drivers. There's a brake cylinder in between everything that we've got to get to, new seals in that, make that compliant with FRA regulations. So yeah, there's a whole list of work that needs to be done to this thing. But it is still in decent shape. Your bearings are in decent shape, your rods are in decent shape. The locomotive last ran, 2010, 2012, somewhere in that ballpark.
It was, I think, November 2010.
So,
just right
yeah,
after Steve Reber.
it runs pretty good. It'll roll pretty good. I can bump that thing with a forklift and it'll start rolling. So. Yes, very usable. Yes, the wheels still got good meat on it. The drivers, everything. We haven't found any cracks in anything working. So far so good. It's a propane torch, and he sits and just heats and heats and heats and heats until it's red hot. And then on the outside, you get a big socket wrench and you start cranking on it, and it literally stretches that tube sheet out to fit the bottom of that barrel. So that way you get a nice steam tight fit back there. And then obviously, we got the tender from the 4014. It was originally built for the 4015. They put it behind the 4014 to take it out to Los Angeles. I think this tender for the 4014 was scrapped at that point in time. We've completely disassembled all the running gear underneath it. A lot of parts have been reconditioned. We'll see those here a little bit later on the tour. The oil tank should be back here pretty quick. We're actually hoping to have it back here before the tour so it can be something you guys can see. But
So you're keeping this tank?
as of right now, it's going to run behind the Challenger until they get the logistics figured out for the tender swap.
Okay.
So you guys are actually going to swap them?
You can't just put this thing on a freight train and haul it back out.
Yeah.
To get it here, they had to put 8,000 gallons of water in it just to weigh it down. So yeah, it's designed to be high capacity, so the springs are very tense. It's a very rigid frame, and it doesn't like going backwards. We've learned that. But yeah, they had to put about 7,000 gallons of water in it. They had to fill it half full, and the wonderful part was it froze. So we had to wait for it to thaw once it got here. And yeah, so.
And these are.
There's a difference between this tender and the big
None.
or nothing. Yeah.
The Challenger tender, the one that Ed has on the 4014 right now, has a toolbox mounted on the side of it, about halfway down on the engineer
That's
side.
the only
And
difference.
that's the only visible difference between the two. Now that is where Ed mounted all the PTC gear and stuff like that on the 4014. We'll eventually put PTC on the Challenger. The 5511 won't get it. It's just going to putt around here.
Right.
So, but yes, once this thing is done, we will use it behind the Challenger at first, since the fittings will be exactly the same between it and the 4014 and everything. So we'll use it at first, but eventually once the lawyers and everybody get everything worked out. This is our GD80 cutter. It came from a munitions base in Kentucky. The government was shutting the base down and offered it up to us, and we needed a smaller locomotive around here to, move equipment. Firing up the DD40 is fun, but it doesn't make for a good switching. So this locomotive does all of our switching. We use it for moving equipment around here. If low ram needs some of their stuff moved, that's what we fire up and take out there. It's a husky little thing, and it'll move about 30 cars, believe it or not. It shoved those 2 rock trains back in here together on its own, so it's been a real workhorse for us. 4-track drop table. NRE currently leases the north side of the building from us and the north 2 tracks, and they are continuing to do locomotive rebuilds here. The Conrail SD50 is hidden somewhere. I don't know where it's at before anybody asks.
I was asking people.
I don't know where they stuck it at, but it's not around. So,
isn't it the load test unit here?
Yes, it is owned by NRE, and NRE uses it to load test locomotives that they rebuild. They literally take it out there, put on the dynamic brakes, and drag it around all day long. You can hear them just beat the hell out of the thing. So, but yes, they're also doing contract work for low rams. We do contract work for stuff. Canadian National has brought in some of their passenger car trucks off their business train, and we have done 40-year inspections on them, die checked them, stripped them, put new wheels underneath them, so on and so forth. So, but yeah, normally we can go down there, but they're doing some stuff down there, so we can't take you down there today.
For like rolling trucks over?
No. These tracks that you see in the floor down here that we're walking over are some of the last vestiges of the steam locomotive era. This is where the center track ran where the tender was. That they would take the cranes, they would pick the locomotive up off of this center track, swing it over onto one of these herringbone tracks, and set it down. And an army of people would come and just jump on the thing, break it down. The boiler would get, if it had to get removed, it would go to the boiler shop. There was a blacksmith shop between here and the storehouse. At one point in time, they forged parts for everything. Complete teardowns, rebuilds were done right on these tracks right here. And as soon as the locomotives were rebuilt, they would pick them back up, set them on the center track, wheel them back out. Tender would come from the tender shop. They made them back together. And then we got a track back there called the slick track. And they would grease the rails and test the running gear. The thing would spin 50, 60 mile an hour, and it would sit there in place because of the grease on the track, and that's how they would break in the running gear of the locomotive. So, and actually, you go back there, that slick track is just caked with grease. We're gonna have to do something about it. So.
Yeah.
As you can see, like I said, the tender.
Got Challengers.
We're working on all the parts down here. Cab of the Challenger. It's kind of looking decorative right now. We had to cut the sides off. Unfortunately, the Union Pacifics never took the cab off of the locomotive. If they had to do stable work, they would cut a piece of the cab off, do the work that they needed to do, weld the piece back into place, and then put some Bondo over it and repaint it. And over the years, the Swiss cheese has just kind of added up, and we have to replace the cab sides. So what we're going to do is redesign the cab so that way we can unbolt the cab sides and have them come off, so if there's any work that needs to be done, we don't have to remove the cab itself. Now you see these pictures in front of the cab. These are renderings of a future roundhouse. We've begun fundraising and some of the planning work for the roundhouse, which will go in the location of the old Rock Island roundhouse.
That wasn't ambitious enough.
Yeah. Tell me about it. So the roundhouse, I think last night Steve said that about half of the funds have been raised for it. We're still working on the other half. It's going to be about a $4 or $5 million project. We've already done preliminary soil work out there for the turntable. We figured out, we've got to drive some pylons out there. There's some stuff that we got to do, some earthwork. The turntable will probably go in before the roundhouse, and then we'll start on the roundhouse project. So these are the conceptual drawings for the roundhouse that will eventually go out in the northwest corner of the property.
Where'd you get?
They approached Steve Sandberg, and it was pretty much, well, find a facility first, and so then we found this place, and then, okay, well, now that we know that you guys can handle this, we'll go ahead and donate the equipment. So kind of in a nutshell, kind of what happened. There's a lot more moving pieces about it, but that's the basic story. So, and now here we are. We're getting 2 Union Pacific steam engines back running. Speaking of getting them back running, the 5511 is probably one of the more popular engines we get asked about. As fun as the Challenger is, everybody wants to see this thing run. We have stepped up work on it here in the past 6 months. As you can see in front of us here, here's the throttle. The throttle sits up at the steam dome up here. We've taken the throttle out. The old dry pipe, which connects the throttle to the superheater header, which sits up in the smoke box. The dry pipe was cast iron. We measured its thickness. It was unserviceable. So there's a brand new dry pipe. If anybody actually would like to climb the steps and look up in there, you can see the new dry pipe running the length of the locomotive from the tube sheet back. Superheater header's been cleaned up. Actually, before everybody showed up, I was lapping that seam right there. It's a freshly lapped seam. The lapping of the seam allows for the dry pipe to butt up against that for a steam-tight seam without having to use gaskets or anything like that. So when you lap those, the tires that's supposed to happen.
Oh, that's the intake. Yeah.
No, we don't need to tell that. So for the movie Last of the Giants, the Union Pacific cut the piston rods so that way it could move freely without them having to work steam into the cylinders. So when they cut the piston rods, they just torched them off, and the piston shoved itself to the front of the engine, and it just rolled freely. Obviously, we can't run a steam locomotive like that. So you see here are the crossheads from each side. Here are the old pins that were in there. You can see the torched off ends. And in front of you is the new rod material. We're going to be, we've taken measurements so that way we can get the proper taper and threads on these things, and they are going to get sent off to a machine shop to get turned down and put back into the pistons. It's a press fit, and there's a key that sits inside of there. Once we get the pistons done, we'll get new rings for it, fit everything up. The crossheads need new babbits put into it, so there'll be new bronze poured into those. It was pretty worn out too. The Union Pacific got every dime out of these things that they could. So, believe it or not, this engine was actually in a lot better shape than the Challenger in a lot of ways. The boiler was in much better shape. The running gear, it'll need a little more work, but it made it from here to Cheyenne. Early 50s, and then it was used as a stationary boiler in a couple roundhouses out in Wyoming, and then they ended up using it for the Last of the Giants movie, and it just lucked out, and somebody shoved it in a roundhouse in Cheyenne, and she survived. It stayed, and that's why it's in such good shape, because it was inside of the roundhouse all of those years. It didn't sit outside like the Challenger or anything like that. So, as you look here, those are a bunch of stay bolts that we have taken out of the 5511. There's fire brick that we pulled out of there. It's just amazing, how they just parked it, and that's how they left it. As you can see, there's new stay bolts that we've put into the 5511. There's some holes that we got to weld up and put new stay bolts in. Firebox work is progressing on this locomotive. The boiler work's progressing on this locomotive. We're hoping to have a steam test soon, quote unquote. We'll see what soon turns out to be, but it's actually in remarkable shape for a 1923 Baldwin locomotive.
So you're saying that this might be done before 3985?
To be perfectly honest with you, had we started on this when we first got the locomotives, it would be running by now. It is actually in really excellent shape. Plus, the Challenger is literally a locomotive and a half. Anything you do to that rear engine unit, you got to do the front engine unit. So you're pretty much rebuilding 2 running gears instead of just 1 for this locomotive. So, there's 4 of us full-time employees and a bunch of volunteers that work this, and we're pretty much rebuilding 2.5 engines. So it is quite the process. I probably spent 3 weeks putting all the stay bolts in the Challenger. You get there with your air motor, and I mean, this thing weighs 60, 70 pounds. Get your holes drilled and threaded and tapped, and then you got to get your staple in there. Cut them off the length inside. You got to put that big air hammer and hammer them over. You know what? It's probably going to be a lost art. Tips and tricks on firing that thing. You get some of these. It's the 536. that is So this is our diner. This was brought to us in the donation train too. This was probably one of the roughest pieces of equipment that we got from the Union Pacific. It was built by the St. Louis Car Company in 1956. It ran on several of the UP's name trains, Portland Rose, several of the city trains. That came into Chicago quite often on the Milwaukee Road and the Chicago Northwestern. It is still in its original configuration. The Union Pacific was going to use it for their excursion fleet, but they realized that there was a lot of work that needed to be done to it. There is an identical cart to this one in their fleet right now.
What's its name?
I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I know it's still
I think it's City of Denver.
It might be. This car is aluminum sided with stainless steel. The aluminum has rotted badly. There's going to be a lot of body work that's going to need to be done on this car. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. New windows are obviously going to get put into it. Anywhere the aluminum has been eaten at, we're going to have to cut all that out of there, put new aluminum in it. Now, if anybody would like to join me up inside of the car, please be careful going up the steps. If you want to go up, head up and curl in, you can go into the kitchen area there. If you found it, I don't think it's one bar.
Look at this. It's a sink.
And boiler, yep.
That's all the original stainless steel in there. It's the original kitchen, everything's original. The countertop, the stainless steel, all of that's going to be reused. It's in excellent condition, so just clean it up, repair anything that needs to be repaired, and off we go. Now, in here was a different story. There were several raccoons that lived in here, and it showed. There was also a lot of birds that lived in here, and it showed. So we've gone through and cleaned a lot out. As you see the pictures, that was this car when it was built, and that's how it's going to be when it gets restored. The artwork on the walls were original to the car too. We're going to go ahead and restore those on the inside of the vestibule here. This was the dining area. This was the lounge area. There was actually a piano in here. It had been beat up. We had to throw it out, but the piano was actually still sitting here.
You gonna get a new one for it?
Actually, probably not. Pianos don't make money, seats do.
Well, I could make you guys some money by playing some stuff for you.
But yeah, it'll get all new windows. The HVAC is actually, believe it or not, still in really good shape.
Water, was that HVAC water cooled, or how did they do it? I saw the tubes, but I wasn't sure if it was.
I think it is water.
Yeah.
I know it's steam heat. They haven't switched it over to 480. This car was never converted, so
Sure.
yeah, it's still as it was when it rolled out of St. Louis Car Company. But yes, this will be in our excursion fleet. We'll have dining area here, lounge area. it'll be kind of neat to be able to serve food on trips. So this car will be utilized for that. So
Okay.
yep.
I don't know if we did this one.
Whenever we got it, it was
A lot of raccoons and a lot of mice.
Yeah, it was shovelfuls.
Yeah.
My dad.
Nope, the DD40 will not fit in it. we can put modern locomotive in here. The DD40 will not fit inside of the prep deck. This is 55 will fit, not the Challenger. Well, the Challenger without the tender should fit. Yes, we haven't measured it, but it hasn't been over this far yet. So yeah. This Iowa Interstate 700 is one of their Jeep 38 locomotives. It was involved in a grade crossing collision in Walcott, Iowa about 3-4 months ago. It hit a tar truck at 40 mile an hour, so 400-degree hot tar got splattered all over the front of it. They had to use dry ice to blast the tar off of it as best as they could. It is getting repaired by National Railway Equipment, and they're doing a painting right now using our paint room. We use this for a bunch of stuff. We painted our passenger cars in this, the 537 in this. NRE still uses it for their rebuilds. It's kind of, we own it, but it's kind of a shared thing between the two companies. Right now they're doing this. They've got a couple other engines down yonder. They just did a couple CPKC units. I think one's still sitting out on the lead out there. But yeah, it comes in handy, that's for sure. And it doesn't hurt that there's a pit underneath it too, so we can get underneath some of the equipment as well. So.
Yeah, this was 701 actually, but you know, someone was. I'm correcting you.
701?
Yeah, 701.
Is that a Jeep then?
Yeah, Jeep. Yeah, 38. I was about to say. I was about to think it was a Jeep.
Still have the
before.
SDs?
Yeah, they use the yard switch. See them all the time. Yeah, please watch your step around this pit right here. Does anybody have any questions? Any comments, questions?
What is your next phase in the restoration of 3985? Like, what's the next big step?
Well, we got the front engine out from underneath it, so between rebuilding the front engine and getting the tube sheets in, fitted up, welded into place, we want to hydro the boiler soon, as soon as possible. That way we can check and see if we got any more stables that need to come in and out, if there's any other leaks underneath it. There was a leak between the second and third boiler course at one point in time. You could see where, you know, when they were running it, you could the scale and the steam would fizzle out. We re-welded the seams inside of the boiler. They have been inspected by the FRA inspectors that take care of the steam locomotives, and everything has been approved, and that's why we were able to lift the front engine off. Over the years, as that front engine bounced up and down on the carrier plate that rides underneath the boiler, it caused those rivets to work loose between the second and third boiler course. So it did have a steam leak in it. It got to the point where the UP had to keep firing it overnight to keep the steam pressure up. They'd come in the morning and the needle would be at zero because all the steam leaked out through the bottom of the boiler right there. All those cool videos you see of that engine doing 70 miles an hour, they were cool, but it took a lot of life out of that engine. So, you know, whatever you take out, you got to put back into it, and we're putting a lot back into it. So, yeah, all the boiler courses have been re-welded on the inside. The seams have been caulked. The FRA, like I said, has come in and approved the welds, so we're good to go there. So we were able to lift it off, roll the front engine out, and go on to the next phases of it, which complete the firebox work, get some water in it, pressure test it, see what else needs to be done to the boiler, the pressure vessel itself. A lot of the appliances are off at several different contractors getting rebuilt. The pumps, I think, are at Strasbourg. The safety valves are at Strasbourg. You know, the whistle got sent off to Chris Rizzoli. It got sent back to us. It's all. Can't wait to hear that thing. Yeah, just one step at a time.
Do you guys, if you could give like a rough estimate of like, I'm not gonna like, you know, like say this is like hard or whatever, but like, what would be a good estimation to see the Challenger like having like a full steam test? and whatever. Like if you can
When
give
we
it
get
a good,
it.
yeah, whenever you get it. But
I mean, you can't put dates on this stuff.
yeah,
There was an organization out there that put a date on a locomotive and it blew up in their face. So, yeah, we no dates, no time frame. It gets done when it gets done, and it's going to get done properly. So,
yeah.
you know, we're actually moving along pretty good considering what we had to take out of that locomotive. I mean, like I said, it was cool watching the steam engine do 70 miles an hour out there, you know, pulling mile-long stack trains and the circus train and stuff like that. But
that's what you need to do.
Whatever you take out of that engine, you've got to put back into it. So, you know, as soon as yes, it will be burning oil. Yes, it will be an oil burner. We got the, actually we just talked to the Durango and Silverton about oil burning equipment because they're using a lot of it on the 282 conversions out there. So like firing valves and things like that. Now, we have been in talks with the UP about their conversion with the big boy and what they did with that. It'll probably be very similar to what we put on this locomotive. But we're going to do our thing.
It's 5511 also.
Oh, yeah, no, it's already an oil burner.
Oh,
It had everything in it. Yeah. It's actually still got tar. It's turned into tar. But there's about that much in the bottom of the tank. So, yeah, we're going to have to heat that up somehow and suck it out of there. So, yes.
Hey, Scott.
Roll it forward. That'll tell the handle which way we want to go.
All right, here we go. Hey, here we go.
Then you push or pull accordingly.
Here we go.
There you go.
There we go.
was going to do this. Going uphill.
Alright, brake.
I'm in the way. I'm so sorry. I'm right in the middle of these people's photos. I'm going to walk behind them instead. Oh, it's coming in. I ruined your shot.
This is cool. Oh yeah, the miniature train.